I saw this comment on a video that I made. The video was titled "Phil Spencer is owed an apology by the media and the talking heads." The comment said, "I can tell you're not a gamer, period," which is very interesting because this comment does not say anything against what my argument is. It doesn't refute, nor does it validate, nor does it provide an opposing view. It just says that I'm not a gamer, that they can tell that I'm not a gamer. That's all. Now, even if I was a squirrel, you know, and could not handle a controller, the truth remains that what I've said in this video, or what I think I remember I said, which is Phil Spencer's business proposition in terms of him making Xbox games multiply around the time that the Xbox console was getting bludgeoned and moving games to PC, is a valid proposition. It worked out. Xbox kept its studios open, Xbox stayed sustainable in business. And now we see these Xbox studios now at this point in Xbox's life cycle pretty much being powerhouses to be able to bring content where PlayStation can't. That's just the reality. There's nothing against being able to say the truth, especially when just recently we had two people of note come out and make statements that, from a factual perspective, really do lend credence to what Phil Spencer has said. Who are these two people? One of them is Shuei Yoshida, former PlayStation executive, and the other one is Matt Piscatella, who's one of the executives at NPD Research Circana. The things that they've said in terms of Shuhei Yoshida, he's come out to talk about how the market pretty much has moved a lot of these games into a different direction. Think about Japan studios, why they closed the market, forced them to close because they were not making games that sold a lot. But those games like Gravity Rush would have sold on PC if they had the option. That is a cop out, right? Think also about Matt Piscatella, who came out and said only basically 4% of gamers will buy multiple games in a month. 30% of gamers don't buy any games at all. About 12 or 18% or so will buy one game a month. And that's a very small number. So no one's buying games. Does it make sense? All this talk about Xbox players don't buy games, PlayStation players don't buy, like, no one is actually blowing all this money inherently buying these games without the games offering significant value to them. Does that make sense? Like, if the game comes out and they look at the game, they're like, well, it's okay. I'll play the game when it's like $10 or 15 or $20. These companies will come out 3 years later. Oh, Cyberpunk 2077 has sold 30 million units. Good for them. But how many of those million units were basically when the game was $18? Did y'all forget that Cyberpunk 2077 dropped as far as $18? I'm not throwing shit at Cyberpunk 2077. 30 million units is actually a lot. However, I'm just pointing out that not every game gets to see that kind of, critical success at the price point that the developers choose. Elden Ring will be unique. 25 million copies. The game did not drop any lower than 35 or so dollars, maybe a little lower in some cases, but it took it a while. From Software usually keeps their game prices high because they have their quality embedded within the game and they have their name, as a big aspect of it. So, with that in mind, and Shuhei Yoshida coming out to tell you that basically, in order for you to pretty much go ahead and see these single player games, you got to buy two copies of the game, buy exclusives, he said. So, what does me having to be a gamer or not have to do with it? And the reason I make these videos, ladies and gentlemen, I used to basically go ahead and worry about, well, not worry, but we'll talk about how the gaslighting was kind of a big issue and all that. But now I just look at the gaslighting as an opportunity to try to make the exact same video, benefit from it, and also be able to educate people who may be, in a sense, unaware of the full story. Because these detractors and distractions that these folk are bringing, to the table, they do provide an opportunity for us to still be able to go back and talk about it, right? So no one is buying games. I mean, that's a general statement in a sense, and what's funny is the gaming media and all these talking heads have basically banked their entire premise on this thing that Game Pass is bad, it reduces the quality of games, blah, 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 with just lambasting and talking nonsense because most of the people who talk about this stuff, right, think about their position. Okay, because I can relate to them from that position a little bit. Let me tell you what's going on. Many of them run podcasts, they've run YouTube channels, they run platforms where they earn money from talking about video games. Okay? The money that they earn is actually provided by you directly or indirectly. Those of you who watch my videos, you provide an avenue for me to be able to gain some YouTube ad revenue. Even though it's little, the channel doesn't have, too many views and all that stuff, but it's still something that if I wanted to go ahead and actually purchase a game to talk to you about, it's from those funds I'm going to pull under business expenses. And I'll basically get the game. I'll talk to you about the game and say, hey, this is what I found, this is what I'm seeing, this is what's going on here and there. Right. So there is that pocket of, resources for me to be able to do stuff like that. Imagine the folk who make it a bigger deal for the most part. And that's how they basically are able to turn that stuff around and continue to pretty much feed information to their audiences. So when they are talking about how they buy games, how they engage in games, how they think they should be, they are talking about it from a perspective of you are the one funding those games directly or indirectly. Whereas in your case as a gamer, you don't have access to those kinds of funds where you talk and money flies out the air. So you have to think about your own pocket and how, the games actually, are important to you. And so what do you do in that instance? You either wait for a sale or you get a subscription like Game Pass or you play what's on PlayStation Plus because we live in a real world, right? And so me, I'm not gonna sit here and try to tell you, oh, you should buy games or exclusives or whatever, because I look at the market from a realistic perspective. Because even I myself, regardless of whether there's YouTube ad revenue or not, I still have to think about what games am I even going to spend money on. And I look at Game Pass and I say, yeah, this to me is much better because as a video games, conversationalist or whatever you want to call me, this is still a better proposition where I have access to more games that I can tell my audiences about and say this is what's going on. So if they choose, it's their choice, they can engage in it. Whether or not I'm a squirrel has nothing to do with it. And I think this is where the gaming conversation has basically gotten to, where people just think sometimes they can just come out and vomit nonsense without thinking about what the reality is. If you spend money on games and you buy, brand new games and every time they come out of the wall, 60, I mean, great. I'm happy that there are people who do that. I'm not saying that people who don't do that, who do that, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. If they have the possibility and they can afford to do that because it supports, I guess it supports the studios, but some of us are not in that position. So we engage where we think the value of the game is. And the developers know that. For some people, a $60 game is only worth $30. For some people, a $60 game is worth $60. For some people, a $60 game is worth $20. For some others, free on a subscription. And the numbers that Matt Piscatella put out shows this. Those people who are not buying games, what do you think they're playing? They're playing free to play games, right? On PC, you can run an entire gaming library for $0. Zero, not a dime spent on PC with no subscription. Like, even on console, you have to get access to Xbox Live Gold, or they now call it Game Pass or PlayStation Plus to be able to get it. On PC, nada. You literally can get an Epic Games account and immediately download free games that will be paid for on other platforms. I'm not talking about Fortnite. Fortnite. No, 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 no. So you can get a small gaming PC, get Fortnite on there, get Apex Legends on there, get Call of Duty Warzone on there, right? And then get either AAA games or double O games for free with Epic Games. Literally not buying a single game. I'm not talking about getting Amazon Prime through Twitch and even getting those free games. There's also that part, but it's a benefit of having a subscription to Amazon Prime. So even if we don't count it, just sit on Epic Games and you can build a gaming library. So there are people who only do that. They're not gonna buy any games. They're gonna be like, that game that you're freaking out for, that you paid $60, I'm gonna wait for 4 years because I have a backlog of free games that I'm gonna be playing till that time comes. And then when that game is all said and done and it's all high and dry, and y'all have basically funded it, Epic is going to pretty much bring it over here for me and use it as my whatever. And people complain about Game Pass. There are people who complain about Game Pass when that reality is a thing. I just made a video of PC players, and some of them, well, maybe they may be feigning PC players, I don't know, complaining about Game Pass. But it's just so weird. Anyways, I digress. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to you on another one. Appreciate you. Talk to me in the comment section.